Have you ever stopped to think about how much of your life is tied to Facebook? For many people, it's not just a website. It's where friendships live, where memories are stored, and where people shape the version of themselves they want the world to see. But behind the smiles, the vacation photos, and the updates, there's another side of Facebook that most users never encounter. A side filled with fake identities, manipulated profiles, and accounts that are anything but ordinary. Tonight, we step into that shadowy world. This is not about scams you've already heard of. This is about the truly disturbing fake accounts that lurk on the platform. Accounts created not just to trick, but to terrify. To manipulate emotions, spread chaos, and in some cases, to cross the line between digital deception and real-world harm. The story begins in the late 2000s when Facebook was still in its explosive growth phase. Millions of people were signing up every month, and the platform had very few defenses in place against fake accounts. At first, most fakes were harmless. People would create profiles pretending to be celebrities or joke characters. But as the network grew, so did the opportunity for darker intentions. One of the earliest disturbing patterns came from what were called ghost accounts. These weren't parody pages or lighthearted duplicates. They were accounts using the names and photos of people who had actually died. Imagine logging onto Facebook and seeing a friend request from someone you attended school with years ago, only to realize that person passed away long before. Families of the deceased began reporting strange activity birthday wishes being posted on fake timelines, messages sent to relatives, and in some cases, even attempts to friend request grieving parents. At first, many dismissed it as tasteless trolling. But as journalists began to investigate, they uncovered something far more sinister. Entire networks of these ghost accounts were being operated by groups who sold them to spammers, scammers, and even stalkers. To them, it was simple: a fake account that looks real is more valuable than an obvious bot. And nothing looks more real than someone who once lived, with photos, friends, and a past that can be pieced together from old posts. By 2011, Facebook admitted that millions of profiles on its platform were fake. But what they didn't highlight was the unsettling way these accounts were being used. Some were tied to catfishing schemes, others were spreading misinformation, and a few had connections to criminal activities. In one chilling case, police in Canada uncovered a ring of predators who were using fabricated teenage profiles to lure real children into conversation. These weren't just fake accounts anymore. They were weapons. As disturbing as these cases were, the most unsettling stories didn't always come from organized groups. Sometimes they came from individuals. Like the story of Emily. Emily's account first appeared in 2012. She seemed like a regular teenager sharing selfies, posting about school, and commenting on friends' walls. But people began to notice that she never actually met anyone in person. Her profile had dozens of tagged photos, but they were all slightly off. Lighting was inconsistent, backgrounds didn't match, and her face never looked quite the same. Some suspected Photoshop, others thought maybe she was just shy. But then strange messages began to circulate. Several people reported receiving private messages from Emily late at night. The messages weren't threatening, but they were unnerving. Things like, "I saw you walking home today," or "I know you keep your light on when you sleep." No one could figure out who was behind it, and when local students confronted the profile online, the account would simply disappear only to return under a slightly different name a few weeks later. Investigators eventually discovered that Emily S. photos had been stolen from multiple real girls' Instagram accounts and stitched together to create a fake persona. The disturbing part was not just the deception, but the persistence. Whoever was behind it wasn't trying to scam money or gain followers. They were using the profile to unsettle people, to blur the line between online anonymity and physical presence. Cases like Emily's highlight the eerie reality of fake Facebook accounts. They aren't always about profit. Sometimes they're about control, sometimes they're about fear. But the story doesn't stop there. Because as technology advanced, so did the disturbing tactics. The rise of artificial intelligence and deepfake technology introduced a new kind of fake profile, one that no longer needed to steal photos at all. These were accounts built entirely from scratch, with faces that didn't exist in the real world. Smiling portraits of people who looked real but who had never been born. By the mid-2010s, researchers began sounding the alarm. These synthetic accounts were nearly impossible to detect by human eyes. They could pass friend requests, join groups, and even get recommended by Facebook's own algorithms. And when tied to coordinated disinformation campaigns, they became one of the most powerful tools for manipulation the internet had ever seen. In one infamous case, hundreds of these AI-generated accounts were used to stir up political debates in multiple countries. Fake activists argued with real ones. False news spread faster than fact-checkers could keep up, and ordinary people found themselves friending and trusting profiles that, in reality, were nothing but pixels. The chilling part is that for every story we know about, there are hundreds that never make the news. Because Facebook rarely reveals the true scale of the problem. For users, it's just an occasional strange friend request, a weird message, or a profile that doesn't seem quite right. But behind the scenes, researchers estimate that tens of millions of these accounts have existed at any given moment. And here's the question that lingers in every case. If fake accounts are everywhere, how can you be sure the person messaging you is real? The disturbing world of fake Facebook accounts didn't just target strangers. Sometimes it hit far closer to home. In 2013, a family in Illinois began receiving friend requests from their late daughter's profile. She had passed away 2 years earlier in a car accident, but her face and her name suddenly reappeared on Facebook. At first, they thought it was some kind of glitch. But then messages began arriving. Short, cryptic sentences like, "I miss you," or "Why did you leave me?" The family was shaken. It was one thing to grieve, but another to feel like their loved one's memory was being manipulated. Investigators later discovered that someone had cloned her profile using old photos and public information. The disturbing part? The person behind it wasn't a scammer after money. They seemed obsessed with the girl's identity, using the account to message her old friends, join groups she once belonged to, and even comment on posts as if she had returned from the dead. For those who saw it, the illusion was terrifyingly real. Stories like this weren't isolated. In fact, the practice of profile cloning exploded around this time. Criminals realized they could duplicate a real person's profile, copy their photos, and send friend requests to their family and friends. Once accepted, they had a direct line into people's trust. Some used it for financial scams, others for stalking, and a few for something even darker, emotional manipulation. But not all disturbing fake accounts looked human. Some were designed to look broken, like digital ghosts haunting the platform. Users began reporting strange accounts with names full of random numbers, profile pictures that looked warped or distorted, and timelines filled with unsettling images. One account, nicknamed The Stitched Man by Reddit users, had a profile photo of a face crudely photoshopped together from several different people. Its posts were short, eerie sentences, like, "I'm watching you," or "The sky is wrong tonight." No one knew if it was an elaborate troll or a deeper, psychological experiment, but the effect was the same. It left people unsettled. Dozens of users reported being stalked by the account, receiving late-night messages that felt like they came from someone who knew more than they should. Eventually, Facebook removed it, but clones of The Stitched Man kept popping up, spreading across forums as an urban legend of the platform. Around the same time, whistleblowers inside Facebook started to reveal just how unprepared the company was to handle these cases. While billions of real users were enjoying their feeds, millions of fake accounts were slipping through unnoticed. Some estimates suggested that up to 10% of all Facebook accounts were fake, a number staggering in its implications. If Facebook had 1 billion users, that meant 100 million fakes, each with the potential to manipulate, deceive, or disturb. And then came the political side. During the 2016 U.S. elections, Facebook was rocked by revelations that fake accounts had been weaponized at a massive scale. Entire networks of fabricated profiles posed as activists, journalists, and ordinary citizens pushing propaganda into news feeds. They weren't just spreading lies, they were shaping real debates, dividing communities, and creating chaos in ways that real people couldn't. For the first time, the world began to realize that disturbing fake accounts weren't just creepy internet stories. They were tools of power. Behind some of them were trolls seeking attention. Behind others were governments running information warfare. And behind the most unsettling ones, people whose motivations were impossible to understand. Because that's what makes this story so disturbing. It's not just that fake accounts exist. It's that you never know who's behind them. A scammer, a stalker, a government agent, or someone with intentions you can't even imagine. Some of the darkest fake Facebook accounts didn't try to blend in. They stood out on purpose, designed to make people uncomfortable. In 2017, users began to notice a wave of strange profiles popping up across different countries. These accounts all had the same eerie pattern: distorted faces as profile pictures, timelines filled with cryptic numbers, and status updates that look like codes. At first, people thought they were some kind of art project, but then the accounts started sending private messages. The messages weren't scams. They weren't asking for money or passwords. Instead, they were unsettling sentences like, "Your house has 3 windows," or "Your mother is awake now." Many who received them swore that the details were accurate personal things only someone close to them should know. The question became, how were these accounts gathering that information? Some speculated they were linked to data leaks. Others believed they were part of a psychological experiment. But no one ever came forward to claim responsibility. Around the same time, law enforcement agencies discovered fake accounts tied to child exploitation networks. These weren't simple scams or trolling games, they were traps. Criminals created realistic profiles of teenagers, complete with fake friends, shared photos, and years of fabricated activity. They used these accounts to lure vulnerable kids into conversations. What made it even worse was how real these accounts looked. Parents couldn't tell. Teachers couldn't tell. Even Facebook's automated systems often missed them. Behind the mask of a smiling profile picture was a predator. And then there were the resurrected accounts. Families began reporting cases where their deceased relatives' Facebook pages suddenly came back to life. These weren't just profile clones. Hackers had managed to break into real, inactive accounts belonging to the dead. They began posting, liking photos, and even messaging friends and family. Imagine logging into Facebook and seeing a notification that your grandfather, who passed away 3 years ago, had just liked your new post. The psychological toll of these accounts was enormous. Some believed it was hackers testing stolen credentials. Others thought it was part of larger identity theft operations. But for the families, it didn't matter. It felt like their loved ones had been violated all over again. One of the most infamous cases involved a woman in Canada who received a friend request from her sister's account, except her sister had died in an accident months before. At first, she thought it was just someone reusing the photo. But when she clicked the profile, she saw updates, posts, and comments that seemed personal. Whoever was behind the account had combed through years of old photos and messages to recreate her sister's voice. For weeks, the woman received late-night messages that mimicked how her sister used to talk. When she finally went public with the story, others admitted they had experienced something similar. By now, it was clear, fake Facebook accounts weren't just scams. They were something far darker. Some were designed to steal, others to manipulate, and some simply to unsettle and disturb. But the biggest question remained, who was controlling them and why? At the same time, Facebook's own systems were being tested. Whistleblowers revealed that while the company bragged about removing millions of fake accounts each month, countless more slipped through. For every fake account removed, new ones were born. It was like a digital hydra. You cut off one head, and 3 more appeared. The scariest part? Many of these accounts weren't controlled by humans at all. They were run by bots. Automated software that could create a profile, fill it with random posts, add friends, and even hold basic conversations. And as artificial intelligence improved, so did the bots. Soon, fake accounts could mimic real human behavior so well that even experts struggled to tell them apart. Imagine scrolling through your feed, liking posts, and chatting with friends, never realizing one of them doesn't actually exist. They're not a scammer in another country. They're not even a human being. They're lines of code, pretending to be your friend. And when those bots were programmed not just to mimic, but to manipulate, the results became terrifying. By the late 2010s, disturbing fake accounts weren't just random anomalies anymore. They had become organized networks. Researchers uncovered what they called ghost clusters, hundreds, sometimes thousands of fake Facebook profiles all connected to each other, designed to look like real communities. They had profile pictures stolen from stock photography sites or real people's Instagram accounts. Their timelines stretched back years with fabricated posts, fake birthdays, and fake check-ins. To the average user, they looked genuine. But underneath, they were machines built for one purpose: manipulation. One of the most haunting discoveries came when users began to receive friend requests from people they actually knew, except those friends swore they had never created a Facebook account. Entire fake identities were being built from scratch, borrowing real names, real hometowns, and even family connections. These imposter accounts interacted with genuine users, weaving themselves into their social circles. By the time victims noticed, it was too late. The fake accounts had already collected personal photos, family details, and private messages. Some of these fake accounts were traced back to black markets on the dark web, where stolen identities were being bought and sold in bulk. For just a few dollars, a scammer could purchase a ready-made Facebook account complete with friends, posts, and years of fake history. But others weren't about money at all. They were about control. During major political events, thousands of these accounts began to act in unison. They shared the same stories, posted the same comments, and pushed the same hashtags. At first, it looked like grassroots movements, ordinary people voicing their opinions. But investigators discovered that entire online debates had been sparked and fueled by fake accounts. Real people argued, real communities divided, all because of ghosts behind the screen. And then there were the accounts that didn't just manipulate opinions, they stalked. Users reported getting friend requests from profiles that copied their own pictures, their own names, even their own job details. These mirror accounts followed them everywhere, tagging their friends, liking the same pages, and commenting on the same posts. It was like looking into a digital doppelganger. Some victims described it as being haunted online. In one chilling case, a college student in Texas reported that her mirror account began posting about places she hadn't even been yet, restaurants she planned to visit, events she had just bought tickets for. Somehow, the fake account knew her plans before she even posted them. Whether it was a stalker with access to her private information or a bot scraping her phone's data, she never found out, but not all disturbing accounts were after individuals. Some were after emotions. Facebook users around the world began to encounter bizarre accounts that posted unsettling photos, distorted faces, strange drawings, and captions that read like broken diary entries. At first, they seemed like trolls, but the deeper you looked, the stranger they became. Many of the images came from missing persons databases. Some of the captions appeared to reference real crimes. Police were alerted, but nothing definitive was ever proven. Another infamous wave of disturbing fake accounts appeared in 2018, when survivors of tragedy, school shootings, natural disasters, terrorist attacks reported seeing their deceased loved ones' profiles reactivated. Posts appeared, comments were made, even photos were uploaded. Investigators later suggested these were identity thieves exploiting victims for scams and donations. But for the families, it was far more personal. It felt like their grief was being turned into a puppet show. Perhaps the most unsettling part was how normal these accounts could look. You might scroll past them without ever realizing. They might even be in your friends list right now. Because fake accounts aren't always obvious. They don't all have stock photos or weird names. Some are built slowly, carefully, over years. They share memes, they wish people happy birthday, they comment on your vacation photos. You trust them because everyone else does. And that trust is exactly what makes them so dangerous. The deeper researchers dug, the more horrifying the picture became. Fake Facebook accounts weren't just scams or trolls or identity thieves. They were a mirror held up to the internet itself, showing how fragile trust really is. By the early 2020s, the line between real and fake on Facebook had almost vanished. Investigators discovered accounts run not by humans but by AI. These weren't sloppy bots posting random links. They were sophisticated programs capable of learning how people wrote, what they liked, even how they argued. They didn't just trick strangers, they fooled friends. Imagine scrolling your feed and seeing a post from someone you've known for years. The words sound like them, the photos look like them, but behind that smiling face isn't a person at all, it's code. AI-generated friends designed to influence, manipulate, or simply observe. Some of these accounts were so advanced they even responded in real time, holding entire conversations without raising suspicion. But the most disturbing accounts were the ones no one could explain. Profiles that didn't trace back to any human, bot, or known network. They appeared suddenly, interacted with real people for weeks, then disappeared without a trace. One researcher called them phantoms, like shadows of people who never existed. Some posted cryptic messages about events that hadn't happened yet. Others shared photos from places they couldn't possibly be. No one knows where they came from. And then came the darkest twist of all, the fake accounts that crossed into the real world. Users reported meeting someone in person, someone they had first connected with on Facebook, only to later discover that the profile had been fake all along. Names didn't match, addresses didn't exist, and the digital trail vanished overnight. It raised a terrifying question: were these just scams or something much bigger? For years, people thought of fake accounts as harmless annoyances, a spam bot, a scammer, a troll. But what we've seen paints a very different picture. Fake accounts can manipulate elections, steal identities, torment grieving families, and even create entire digital ghosts. They're not just numbers on a screen. They're a reminder that in the age of social media, reality itself can be fabricated. And maybe that's the real horror? Not the scams, not the stalkers, not even the AI, but the fact that at any given moment you might not know who you're really talking to. That trusted friend, that old classmate, that new connection, they could all be illusions. So the next time you log in, take a closer look at your friends list. Ask yourself, how many of them are real? And how many are just masks staring back at you through the screen? Because on Facebook, the most disturbing fake account might already be closer than you think. This was the dark story of Facebook's most disturbing fake accounts. If you found it chilling, check out our other deep dives into the hidden and dangerous side of the internet. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps bring more of these stories to life. This video is for educational and historical purposes only. It does not endorse stalking, scamming, or illegal activity. Viewer discretion is advised.